In Thailand, authorities find a 24-year-old Ukrainian model dead in her luxury condominium. Police say the model's body was stabbed multiple times and almost decapitated with a saw. More details on this later in the news. Good evening. I am Ricky Mathay. This is Mata ng Agila International. And now for the headlines. Philippines and Vietnam to work over a substantive code of conduct on South China Sea. Australian Foreign Minister arrives in the Philippines for diplomatic talks. Japan tightens security ahead G7 summit. Taiwan's opposition Kuomintang selects Hu Yui as presidential candidate. And sing along with American singer Bruno Mars for a two-night concert at the Philippine Arena. The Philippines and Vietnam now vow to strengthen their collaboration on maritime affairs amid conclusions of the Code of Conduct on the South China Sea. Agila for the details.
The Department of Foreign Affairs, or DFA, said that the Philippines and Vietnam expressed their concern over unilateral activities that undermine peace and stability in the region. DFA adds that the two nations are committed to protecting their rights and legitimate interests under the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, or UNCLOS. China and the Association of the Southeast Asia Nations, or ASEAN, are reviewing on the South China Sea Code of Conduct. But Beijing emphasizes that tensions in the region should be done through bilateral dialogues and engagement with countries in the South China Sea. Meanwhile, Australian Foreign Minister Penny Wong urges the ASEAN nations to not agree on anything less than their rights. Canberra notes that the South China Sea and the West Philippine Sea are both important international trade routes. Agila for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Australian Foreign Minister Penny Wong arrives in the country for an official visit. Department Foreign Affairs Undersecretary Antonio Morales, Philippine Ambassador to Australia Maria Helen de la Vega, and other DFA officials welcomed Prime Minister Wong from Ninoy Aquino International Airport. Foreign Affairs Secretary Enrique Manalo is scheduled to meet FM Wong for a bilateral meeting. The Australian official is expected to have a courtesy call with President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. and Vice President Sara Duterte. Wong's state visit follows a series of high-level exchanges between Australia and the Philippines. United States Ambassador to the Philippines Mary Kay Carlson says that the Defense and Security Pact between Manila and Washington stands on its own. The U.S. envoy stresses that this does not concern any country, including China. Beijing previously condemned the increasing presence of American forces in the country amid rising tensions in the Indo-Pacific region. Last month, Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Wang Wenbin criticized the 4 additional locations under the Enhanced Defense Cooperation Agreement, or EDCA, between the Philippines and the U.S. in the country. The 4 locations specified are in Camilo Ocias Naval Base in Santa Ana and Lalo Airport in Lalo, both in Cagayan Province, Camp Melchor de la Cruz in Gamu, Isabela Province, and Balabac, the southernmost island in Palawan Province. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. signs the amendment of the law that provides fixed terms for ranking officials of the Armed Forces of the Philippines, or AFP. J.D. Mahinay for the details.
President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. approves the Republic Act No. 11939, which amends Republic Act No. 11709, that was formally signed to law by former President Rodrigo Duterte last April 2022. RA 11709 dictates and sets a fixed term for key military positions in the Armed Forces of the Philippines, or AFP. Under RA 11939, the Chief of Staff of the AFP will only have a maximum tour duty of 3 consecutive years, unless sooner terminated by the Chief Executive. Meanwhile, the following officers will have a maximum tour duty of 2 consecutive years unless they receive early termination. The following are the Commanding General of the Philippine Army and the Philippine Air Force, the Flag Officer in Command of the Philippine Navy, and the Superintendent of the Philippine Military Academy. The new legislation also states that the officers holding said positions will not be eligible for any post in the AFP except if promoted to Chief of Staff. The law also mandates a compulsory retirement for officers in the grades of Second Lieutenant, Ensign to Lieutenant, and Vice Admiral when reaching age 57 or after 30 years of active duty. Some Solons pushed for the amendment to address the grumblings in the AFP. Defense Department Officer in Charge Carlito Galvez Jr. admitted last January that the complaints within the AFP over the fixed-term law affects the morale of soldiers. JD Mahinay reporting for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. is eyeing the revival of the Philippine Sugar Corporation, or PhilSucor. Martin Liachon for the report.
In a meeting with sugar industry stakeholders, President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. vows to boost the country's sugar production, along with the government plans to promote its development. One suggestion that came up in the meeting is the revival of the Philippine Sugar Corporation, or PhilSucor, which was created under Presidential Decree number 1890 in 1983. The agency was established to finance facilities used in the manufacturing and distribution of sugar and its byproducts. In 2018, an order to abolish PhilSucor was released due to its overlapping functions with the Sugar Regulatory Administration, or SRA.
Ngayon hindi masyado silang nakakapagtrabaho dahil they tried to abolish the PhilSucor in 2019, I think. Ngunit hindi na-abolish, nandiyan pa sila, kaya bubuhayin natin at babaguhin natin, titignan natin kung ano yung mga pagbabago para makapag-adjust tayo dito sa sitwasyon natin ngayon. And they will continue their work in providing assistance sa ating mga farmers, sa ating mga farmers groups.
The President adds that the local sugar industry will be strengthened, as well as the identification of sugar lands to expand acreage and to boost sugar production in the country. Martin Leachon reporting for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
The Department of Budget and Management signs the approval to release 15.1 billion pesos worth of funds to construct almost 5,000 school buildings in the country. According to DBM, the expenditure of the fund includes the construction, replacement, and completion of kindergarten, elementary, and secondary school buildings, as well as technical vocational laboratories. The expenditures also include the placement or replacement of disability access facilities, construction of water and sanitation facilities, and site improvements. The Department of Education reports that the country is in shortage of 165,000 new classrooms, which the department plans to resolve by 2023. DepEd hopes to achieve this if the Marcos administration will provide a 100 billion peso increase to their annual budget. The timely release of these funds, a joint request of the Department of Public Works and Highways and the Department of Education, demonstrates that the PBBM administration does not hold back on investing in education. We need to build and repair classrooms to keep up with increasing enrollment in our public schools. Meanwhile, the Department of Public Works and Highways and the DepEd lauded the Marcos administration for its commitment to invest in the education sector. Department of Budget and Management Secretary Amena Pangandaman approves the release of the 7.68 billion peso budget for the Department of Social Welfare and Development, or DSWD's Targeted Cash Transfer, or TCT program. According to the Secretary, there are about 7.6 million expected beneficiaries to receive their TCTs based on the President's directive to help the country's impoverished citizens. In 2022, DBM released funds amounting to almost 19.5 billion pesos to DSWD's TCT program. Meanwhile, the released 7.68 billion peso fund will cover the remaining 2 months of the said program, in which the beneficiaries will receive 500 pesos monthly.
Sabi ko lang, salamat sa ating presidente. Nagbigay siya ng pera para sa magamit ng mga mahihirap. Kaso ang magiging problema niyan, kung mapupunta nga lahat sa mahihirap yung perang binigay niya. Kasi alam niyo naman yung takbo ng gobyerno na iba, hindi naman halos lahat na gaano.
Merong proof na ginagamit talaga sa tama yung pera. Hindi siya napupunta kung saan-saan.
DSWD confirmed that the agency has started an intensive or extensive and important digital transformation program for a faster, proper, and continuous process of their public services. This includes the adjustment of information and communications technology infrastructure, digitalization of the list of beneficiaries, and design of digital public infrastructure technologies to reduce cases of red tape and speed up the processing of cash aid assistance. And on the eve of his anniversary as a Philippine senator, Mata ng Agila Primetime had the opportunity to interview Senator Robin Hood Padilla. Among his platforms were pushing for amendments to the rice traffication or tarification law, pushing for charter change and civil service eligibility for contractual government workers. Senator Padilla supported proposals to adjust the monthly pension and benefits of retirees of the Department of Foreign Affairs, or DFA, as he recognizes the complex responsibilities faced by foreign service personnel. During the hearing of the Committee on Government Corporations and Public Enterprises, Padilla pointed out that the work of DFA personnel is equally as important as that of the military in preserving and enhancing national security. Senator Padilla also supports several lawmakers' push for the Philippines to adopt a federal system of government. Coming up, Japan tightens security on the eve of the G7 summit. Ecuador President Guillermo Lasso abolishes National Assembly. And Taiwan's Kuomintang appoints former cop turned mayor as presidential candidate. Stay tuned for more stories from around the globe when we return.
Dapat mas masaya dahil kayo na.
Inisip ko lang kasi, paano kung may iba si Apo?
Wow, ganda.
Oh, yan ka na naman ha. Bakit? Tanong ng magaganda ha. Sige, tawagan mo na lang.
Hello, Banggi.
May kausap ka sa phone! Yung bangge!
Sino Banggi?
Ay, hello?
Banggi! Hello? Banggi!
Ay, sir, pero may mga checklist na po ako. ID, bank statement, yearbook, diary. Hindi pwede na po na rin dyan sa message.
Hindi na kailangan. Lumabas na si baby.
Totoo ba na nagka-something kayo ni... Sige po, i-reveal ko na. Anong hayop ang iyak tawa? Ano? Unggoy. Bakit?
Tayo magsama-sama sa harap ng telebisyon para manood at magsaya kasama ang buong pamilya.
Please, let's welcome our Tara Gamers na street vendors!
Sarap.
Gusto mo ba?
Diet nga ako eh. Mamaya na lang pagkatapos ng game.
Akala ko food trip tayo eh.
Kayo na may papasa yung tanong na yan.
Kay Ate Ruby. Ate Ruby po, sorry. Ate Ruby ulit.
Grabe ka, wala kang awa. And this is the game. Agad! Level up!
Welcome back to Mata ng Agila International. The United Nations welcomes a Turkish brokered agreement to extend for another 2 months. The pact allows shipment of grain from Ukraine to the global market. Bruce Balmeo tells us more.
United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres says the extension of the Black Sea Initiative is crucial to ensure the safe passage of ships carrying grain from Ukraine to the Black Sea. This even as fighting rages between Russian and Ukrainian troops on land. Gutierrez says these agreements matter for global food security and that Ukrainian and Russian products feed the world. Under the Black Sea Initiative, more than 10 million tons of food have been exported. The UN chief underscores the need for a more firm, longer-term deal after weeks of interruptions to the trade. Russia has raised its objections on key issues. He notes that the pact allowed a World Food Program vessel with 30,000 tons of wheat to head to Sudan. Sudan's food insecurity has worsened in recent weeks due to a domestic political conflict that exploded into intense urban warfare.
Outstanding issues remain, but representatives of Russia, Ukraine, Turkey, and the United Nations will keep discussing them. I hope we will reach a comprehensive agreement to improve, expand, and extend the initiative, as I proposed in a recent letter to the presidents of the 3 countries.
Bruce Balmeo for Mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Security has been beefed up in Hiroshima, Japan, as the city gets ready to host this year's G7 summit. EJ Gonzalez has the details.
Japanese authorities are taking no chances after an attack last month on the country's prime minister. About 24,000 security personnel have been deployed from other parts of the country. For several days now, the police presence has been increased. Officers are patrolling between tour groups in the city's famed Peace Park, keeping an eye out for troublemakers. There are also river patrols that pass by sites such as the atomic bomb dome, and helicopters regularly buzz overhead. Security measures have also been extended to the capital of Tokyo. Messages on the city's train system advise people of the increased security. Coin lockers at major train stations have been taken out of service. Vending machines on subway platforms have been unplugged and sealed with tape. The summit begins Friday and runs until Sunday. EJ Gonzalez for Mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
The United States and Europe have established a new register of damage to tabulate the amount Ukraine suffered from its conflict with Russia. Maria Pejksinovic-Burik heads the 46th Nation Council of Europe. She says 40 countries have already signed on to the register.
So why is it important? It is because we wanted really to have a justice that is centered on the victims. Victims are, as you well know, unfortunately falling every day in Ukraine as we speak. And there are so many people who suffered moral or material damage. And these people need to be compensated. And the very first thing to do is to record the claims, and then the system has to work.
In other news, Ukraine has carried out further strikes on Russian forces as smoke rises from the city of Luhansk. Kyiv has been targeting Russian command and control centers deep behind enemy lines ahead of its long-awaited counter-offensive. The strike follows a similar attack which has destroyed a multi-story building and lightly wounded a Russian military police last Saturday. Further explosions occurred in the city center, with a blast taking place inside a crowded barber shop on Monday. Luhansk People's Republic Interior Minister Major General Igor Kornet was seriously wounded. One person was killed and 5 others were injured.
Чтобы поставить, залить площадку, чтобы было красиво. Сидели возле, на скамейках зеленых. Ни свиста, ни вылета мы не слышали. Мы услышали тогда, когда оно уже приземлилось. Больше я ничего не помню.
Luhansk was effectively annexed by Russia in 2014 and remains relatively peaceful. In recent days, Ukrainian commanders have been carrying out tactical shaping operations across the 900-mile front line. Hungary stonewalls a disbursement of European Union military support to Ukraine. Henry Villanueva has the details.
Hungary's foreign minister, Peter Szijjártó, called Ukraine's recent listing of OTP Bank scandalous and unacceptable. Hungary has expressed their intention to continue their practice until Kyiv removes the Hungarian bank from the list of international sponsors of the Russia-Ukraine war. He further stressed that his country wouldn't approve the release of 500 million euros from EU's European Peace Facility until the bank is removed from the list. Earlier this month, Ukraine's National Agency on Corruption Prevention has come under fire for classifying OTP Bank as an international sponsor of the war over its continued presence in Russia. Relations between Hungary and neighboring Ukraine have been strained by Budapest's refusal to supply Kyiv with weapons or to allow their transfer across the country's shared border. Szijjártó added that Hungary would move to block EU sanctions on Moscow unless Kyiv delists the bank, stating Kyiv had become increasingly belligerent when dealing with Hungary. Henry Villanueva for Mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Doctors in Nigerian public hospitals kicked off a 5-day strike to demand higher wages and compensation. According to Dr. Innocent Orgi, president of the Nigerian Association of Resident Doctors, the strike became a necessity after the government refused to increase their salaries. Although the current work stoppage does not affect specialists and nurses, medical residents make up the bulk of healthcare workers in Nigerian government hospitals. Such strikes are common with the public health sector lacking sufficient funding for many years. Critics point out the vast disparity between the government hospitals and medical care abroad, despite Nigeria's huge earnings as Africa's biggest economy and top oil producer. Dr. Orgi added that the strike could be extended if talks with the government fail to improve. President Guillermo Lasso has been locked in a showdown with legislators who want to impeach him. Lawmakers accused Lasso of not stopping a corrupt deal between the state-owned oil transport company and a private tanker. They argue that the president knew the contract was full of irregularities, costing the state millions in losses.
Reiteramos que el decreto emitido en esta mañana de muerte cruzada por parte del presidente de la República es ilegal, porque no hay en este momento conmoción interna ni grave crisis política.
The Ecuadorian president has strongly denied all accusations. Guillermo Lasso has triggered a constitutional clause to dissolve the government. Armed soldiers surrounded the National Assembly after the president of Ecuador dismissed the legislature. Lasso appeared to have the support of the armed forces, but is strongly opposed by indigenous Ecuadorians. The Ecuadorian leader invoked a procedure known as muerte cruzada, which allows him to rule by decree until elections are held for a new president and legislative body.
Como en el CAL, una clase política que vimos que se vende por presidencias y vicepresidencias en las comisiones y que no les importa los intereses de las grandes mayorías. Sabemos que vienen días duros, pero que esto va a ser responsabilidad de estos dos grupos políticos, el correísmo y el Partido Social Cristiano.
The elections will take place within the next 90 days. In other news, Taiwan's Kuomintang or KMT has selected Hu Yu-yi as their presidential candidate. Hu Yu-yi is a former cop turned city mayor with little to no foreign policy experience. Critics were quick to point this out as the opposition party made the announcement regarding their preferred candidate. The run-up to the vote in mid-January occurs during increased tensions between Taipei and Beijing. China is known to stage regular military exercises near Taiwan to assert its sovereignty claims over the democratically governed island despite Taiwan's strong objections. The KMT favors close ties with China, while the ruling Democratic Progressive Party, or DPP, which upholds Taiwan's separate identity. While the KMT has framed the 2024 vote as a choice between war and peace, DPP has urged voters to choose democracy over authoritarianism.
现阶段，我们的国家在国际情势兵凶战危，国内冲突对立，百废待举。 让年轻人看不到未来，我们必须大破大立，再次让政党轮替。
The United Kingdom has paid Albanian prisoners to leave the country. Albanian authorities confirmed that majority of its citizens deported from the UK were convicted of crimes there. Sources learned that some prisoners were offered £1,500 to leave, while others plan to return to the UK. Deportation flights to Albania have increased since the country signed a joint agreement with the UK to deter and disrupt illegal migration last December. The UK government's Home Office says more than 1,000 people have returned to Albania since then. Around half of them are voluntary, while the rest are a combination of failed asylum seekers and foreign offenders. Former French President Nicolas Sarkozy has lost his appeal against a prison sentence for corruption. The Paris Court of Appeals ruled that the former president could serve his time at home while wearing a tag instead of going to jail. In 2021, Sarkozy was sentenced to 3 years in prison, including 2 suspended sentences for corruption and influence peddling. The 68-year-old is the first former French president to get a custodial sentence. Sarkozy's case is centered on phone conversations between him and his lawyer that was tapped by the French police. Prosecutors convinced the court that Sarkozy offered the judge a prestigious job in Monaco in exchange for information regarding investigations into his 2007 campaign. Although Sarkozy's legal troubles have put an end to his political career, he still retains influence on France's right wing. Up next, Italian floods claim 9 lives, canceling the Formula One race. In Malawi, a hippopotamus capsizes a canoe, claiming 7 lives. And rescuers find 4 plane crash survivors alive in Amazon jungle. Please don't go away. We've got more stories when Mata ng Agila International returns.
Ang estado ng ating mga manggagawa sa ibang bansa.
Pagpunta ko naman dito, hindi naman ako agad nakapagtrabaho. So, siguro mga 1 taong gano'n nga.
Tapos po, yun po yung sobrang miss nila yung family nila.
Yun, doon po pumapasok yung mental sickness po. Kung madadagdagan pa po sa work area nila, doon nagkakapatong-patong.
Nakakayaman pa ba ang magtrabaho abroad?
Bago pa lamang kayo magplano maging OFW, magpaplano na rin kayo kung kailan kayo uuwi. Pagdating sa Pilipinas, wala na mapapasukan na trabaho, hindi makakapagsimula ng negosyo.
Pangarap pa rin po ng mga Pinoy ang maging OFW? Mag-reality check tayo.
This is an epic ride. We haven't done this before. Our motto is ride and have fun.
3, 2, 1,
As part of our advocacy of motorcycle tourism, we visit the lakes para ma-promote yung lakes as a tourist destination. And mabush yung local economy.
At least 9 people died in Italy's northern Emilia-Romagna as heavy rains flooded rivers and submerged entire neighborhoods. The 2-day downpour over the region's agricultural flatlands caused nearly 24 riverbanks to overflow. As thousands of residents were evacuated in the area of Forli and Cesena, authorities confirmed the death of 9 individuals. The floods affected 41 municipalities, which caused landslides in certain areas of the region. The flooding also prompted Formula One to cancel this Sunday's Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix scheduled in Imola, Italy. Event organizers cited they could not guarantee the safety of fans, teams, and staff. For the first time in 30 years, women are being allowed to enlist in the army in the South American nation of Colombia. The move comes as the Colombian government decides whether to end compulsory military service for young men between the ages of 18 to 24. Ervin Arquiza reports.
Colombia now allows women to volunteer for military duty. The Army relies on young recruits to staff bases, protect infrastructure, and carry out administrative chores. It's the professional soldiers who deal with things like drug trafficking gangs and rebels. The government says it wants to strengthen the role of women in the military and offers some of them the opportunity to build a career in the armed forces. Recruits won't be getting rich by enlisting. They will receive a monthly stipend of $75. That's a little over 4,000 pesos. And they must live on military bases for several months. Nearly 1,300 women have enlisted. Ervin Arquiza for Matanang Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Meanwhile, the military has surrounded a town in El Salvador where suspected gang members killed a police officer. A security cordon has been ordered by President Nayib Bukele. Chantel Santos has the report.
A police officer died Tuesday in Nueva Concepcion in El Salvador, a town of about 30,000 people. At dawn on Wednesday, more than 5,000 soldiers and 500 police officers surrounded the town in a bid to catch the killers. Security forces have been searching homes and asking people on the streets to show their identity documents. Bukele says they are not only looking for the killers, but also the entire structure of gang members and collaborators who are hiding there. He launched his controversial war on gangs just over a year ago. In that time, more than 68,000 gang members have been arrested without a warrant under a state of emergency. Chantel Santos for Matanang Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
The death toll has risen to 7 after a hippopotamus charged and capsized a canoe on a river in the southern African nation of Malawi. 6 bodies were recovered in the river following the incident on Monday. A 1-year-old child was confirmed dead, while the 6 bodies recovered included a teenage boy and a teenage girl. Police said 17 people are still missing and the search for them continues. Authorities said the canoe was carrying 37 people in the Ensaine district in southern Malawi. Scores of people have been killed after gunmen attacked a rural village in north-central Nigeria. The attack occurred Wednesday, where fighting is common between nomadic herders and farmers competing for land and resources. Philip Toledo tells us more.
A security advisor to the state's governor says 46 people died in a rural village attack in Nigeria. He adds many people are still missing, so the death toll could go higher. He blames the herdsmen, who he says have been attacking local communities over the past month. The motive for the attack is not known, but the region has been hit hard by clashes between farmers and herders. Farmers accused the nomads of destroying cropland with their herds. There has been no comment from the National Herders Association. Philip Toledo for Matanang Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
4 indigenous children who survived a plane crash were found in the Colombian Amazon after 2 weeks. Colombia's President Gustavo Petro tweeted the news on Wednesday. Ana Cui has more.
More than 100 Colombian soldiers have been scouring the jungle looking for the youngsters, aged 13, 9, 4, and an 11-month-old baby. They had been aboard a plane that crashed May 1st, killing 3 adults. Giant trees that can grow 40 meters tall, wild animals, and heavy rain made the search difficult. Helicopters equipped with loudspeakers flew over the area. The choppers broadcast a message in an indigenous language, telling the kids to stop moving through the jungle. Authorities have not determined the cause of the crash. The pilot reported engine problems just moments before the aircraft disappeared from radar. Ana Cui for Matanang Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
In Melbourne, 7 children remain in the Royal Children's Hospital 2 days after their school bus was hit by a truck. The children ages between 5 and 11 are all in stable condition despite having life-changing injuries. Another 11 children were also taken to hospitals after the crash. Passing drivers and teachers rushed in to rescue and comfort the 45 children involved in the horrific crash on their way home from school. The bus driver, who was injured himself, also helped to get the children out of the bus. Royal Children's Hospital Chief Executive Officer Bernadette McDonald said she was surprised all children survived the horrific accident. An emergency code brown was enacted at the hospital. On Tuesday, the bus was attempting as right turn onto Murphy's Road when a truck rear-ended the bus. The 49-year-old truck driver who stopped at the scene was charged with 4 counts of dangerous driving causing serious injury. A well-loved school teacher in South Australia's Eyre Peninsula is presumed dead after a shark attack. 46-year-old local teacher and surfer Simon Bacanello swam out to inform fellow surfers and a group of swimmers of the great white shark in their vicinity. A witness at the scene was surfing near Bacanello when the attack occurred more than 100 feet offshore. Australian surfers and avid swimmers often frequent Walker's Rock Beach despite it being branded by the locals as Great White Territory. Bacanello has not been seen since. Police authorities believe that a victim has died. A piece of wetsuit and chunks of the man's surfboard have been found by emergency responders. Bacanello was a math, science, and physical education teacher at a school in Elliston. A 24-year-old Ukrainian model was found dead in a luxury condominium in Bangkok, Thailand. Alona Savchenko's body was found with multiple stab wounds and was almost decapitated with a saw. Her hand had been cut off at the wrist. Her boyfriend and suspect, 25-year-old Polish businessman Lagoda Filippo, is an advertising executive in a London-based firm. The couple was last seen via CCTV, smiling and chatting in the hallway. The suspect used Google Translate on his phone to ask a taxi driver to assist him in the disposal of his girlfriend's body. The driver dropped his passenger off at a hotel and called local authorities. Officers with a ranger force were at Rongklua Market, close to the Cambodian border, some 135 miles from Bangkok. Authorities recognized a Caucasian man from a photo that was issued by immigration officials as part of an APB on the suspect. The suspect, very calmly, at the time of his arrest, was drinking coffee and started exercising in his cell. The Canadian government has called for foreign help to battle the wildfires ravaging vast parts of the country's west. Nearly 3,000 firefighters on the front lines cannot bring the infernos under control. Thomas Likeness reports.
The call for other countries to help out came from Canada's Public Safety Minister, Bill Blair. Blair is asking the U.S., Mexico, Australia, and New Zealand to send what help they can. The fires began burning in the oil-producing province of Alberta. Since then, they've spread to neighboring British Columbia and Saskatchewan. On Wednesday, a smoky haze blocked out the sun in many parts of Alberta. People were told to avoid being outdoors because poor air quality posed a health risk. There are nearly 180 fires burning in the three provinces. 48 of them are out of control. Forests are tinder dry from high temperatures and a lack of rain. Strong winds are spreading the flames, and lightning strikes could spark even more blazes. As the region gets ready to celebrate a holiday weekend, a weekend that marks the beginning of the summer camping season, plans for outdoor activities will likely be scaled back. There's a ban on campfires, and with smoke-filled air and fires burning near many parks, people will likely opt to stay home. In Edmonton, Canada, Thomas I. Likeness for Matanang Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Coming right up, Vodafone's new CEO cuts thousands of jobs. Google plans to use new AI models. And Bruno Mars announces Day 2 concert at the Philippine Arena. Catch the latest in business, sports, and entertainment when Mata ng Agila International returns.
Libre lang po, tikman niyo po.
Ako gumawa niyan eh.
Masarap po. Gawa ka pa ng madami.
Siyempre, ako pa. Sarap na yun?
Masarap.
Kaya wala pa, sipa naman yung bola. Sipa lang po. Karne. Ate, kuya, pwede po kami mag-picture. 1, 2, 3. Te, pabigyan nga po.
Ano sa Tagalog ang peanut butter? O ano? O ganun lang.
Oh no, hindi ko talaga.
Oh no! O sige, 1, 2, 3.
Ate, kuya, mag-ingat kayo dun sa nakablo na yan. Para may toyo.
Yung umalis na lalaki, anong sabi sa inyo?
May toyo yan eh.
Habang kinakausap kayo, tumitingin-tingin kayo sa akin doon, nakatayo ako. Excuse me po. Ate.
Kuya, wag mong hawakan. Sabi, hindi ako ha. Ako nagtatanong. Kaboy-kaboy talaga tayo eh.
Oh no! It's zero only! Sa Net 25!
Saya ng barkada at nabuong romansa. Magtuloy-tuloy kaya sa panibago nitong kabanata?
Dito tayo ngayon sa New and Improved Goodwill Resort.
paano kung sa isang iglap, magbago ang lahat?
Sunog! 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 Sunog!
Bagong lugar,
Welcome to Willgood Resort.
bagong mga makakasama,
Welcome to Willgood. Bawal maingay.
at bagong pag-ibig.
Not just classmates, partners kami sa lahat ng bagay. Eventually, led us to forming our own band, Matching Band! Not to mention, a big what if.
Goodwill, Season 2, malapit na.
Okay na po, Ma'am Tricia. Thank you for coming.
Sarah, mag-check-in pa lang siya, hindi pa siya mag-check out.
Welcome back to Mata ng Agila International. $11,000 employees were laid off as Vodafone's new CEO plans to simplify the telecom giant. Catherine Messina for the report.
British mobile giant Vodafone is seen axing 11,000 jobs over 3 years as new chief executive Margherita Della Valle slammed recent performance by saying it has not been good enough. Tens of thousands of jobs across the global tech sector, including by Facebook parent Meta, will be axed as soaring inflation weakens the economy. Della Valle's predecessor Nick Reed stepped down in early December after a 4-year tenure marked by a steep fall in the company's share price. He left Vodafone in talks over merging its UK operations with rival 3UK. Media reports says a deal worth £15 billion is close to completion. Vodafone added that group revenue stood at €45.7 billion at the end of March, almost flat compared with 2021-2022. It added that net profit surged to €11.8 billion from €2.2 billion, reflecting its part disposal of the European mass division Vantage Towers. The company announced 11,000 role reductions planned over 3 years, with both HQ and local market simplification for a leaner and simpler organization to increase their commercial agility and free up resources. With more than 300 million mobile customers in Europe and Africa, Vodafone is heavily focused on accelerating the rollout of 5G in the UK, yet this has been hampered by Britain's ban on the Chinese giant Huawei from involvement in the technology. Vodafone is banking on the merger of its UK operations with Three to expand broadband connectivity to rural communities and small businesses. This is Catherine Messina from London, United Kingdom for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
The State Bank of Pakistan and the Ministry of Information Technology and Telecommunications collaborate to ban the use of cryptocurrencies in their country. The Senate Standing Committee on Finance and Revenue ordered authorities to fully block crypto exchange services and websites in Pakistan. The committee agreed that crypto cannot be regulated, emphasizing that virtual currencies are already banned in the United States, Canada, as well as in China. 2021 government data shows that Pakistanis invested about $20 billion in cryptocurrencies. The successor to the father of Apple, Tim Cook, has built on top of Steve Jobs' existing successes. One criticism he always receives as CEO is that he has yet to come up with a bold new idea of his own. Finally, we may be about to see what Tim has been cooking. At the Worldwide Developers Conference, or WWDC, Apple is expected to share details of their first mixed reality headset, a device that is capable of both augmented and virtual reality. The first overlays imagery onto your real surroundings. The second immerses you in a fully digital environment. With a price tag of $3,000, Apple's headset might not be a mass market product, but this could be a sign of things to come at Apple HQ. Since the Apple Watch debuted in 2015, Apple marketed it as more of a fashion accessory, even having a $10,000 gold edition. The people over at Apple would soon come to realize that the marquee app for the watch was health and fitness, and virtual reality could be a game changer for fitness. As the world's technology advances, automation arrives in the transportation sector. Driverless buses are now on its way across the United Kingdom. Catherine Messina for the details.
The UK rolled out its first autonomous bus network in Scotland last Monday with drivers on standby behind the steering wheel, ready to take control should an emergency arise. The service, which aims to carry 10,000 passengers a week over a 14-mile or 22.5-kilometer route on 5 single-deck buses, will be the world's first automated local bus service. The buses travel at up to 50 miles per hour, and since the UK law does not yet permit fully self-sufficient vehicles, 2 staff members are required: a safety driver to monitor the situation, and a captain on board handling ticketing and passengers inquiry.
Something new, exciting to see, part of a technological revolution of possibility. It's good. The autonomous technology on this bus has been tested before, but this is the first time that it's been put onto a bus, and a bus that's now a registered local bus service. So any member of the public from Monday will be able to get on this bus and experience autonomous travel.
The onboard system will detect other road users to prevent collisions, while optical cameras and radar will scan the road to check for pedestrians. The control system includes an artificial intelligence engine that receives information from throughout the bus to determine its exact location and calculate the safest route to its destination.
As the bus is in service, it's learning the route all the time. We're gathering more and more data to make the service more and more reliable. So as the service starts, we'll be collecting more data, and then we'll be increasing the amount of autonomous travel.
The driverless bus were tested previously in 2 cities. First in Malaga, Spain, last 2021, presented as a trial project in Europe with Singapore, and the other was in Seoul, South Korea last year, as part of experiment that aimed to make people feel comfortable with autonomous vehicles. The service is said to be safer, more fuel efficient, and would offer a better experience for customers.
Reporting from London, United Kingdom, I am Sara Alcantara for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
From London, that was Sara Alcantara for the report. Thank you, Sarah. In other news, Google plans to use new artificial models for automated advertisements. Alphabet Inc. is planning to use tools powered by Palm 2 for advertisers to generate their own media assets and to suggest videos for YouTube creators to make. Google aims to use generative AI to boost revenue and improve margins. The company adds that an AI-powered customer support strategy could potentially run across more than 100 Google products, including the Play Store, Gmail, Maps, and Android Search. Google is also working on its own internal static diffusion-like product for image generation and stabilization. Static diffusion technology renders images in various styles with text-based directions from the user. On May 23, Google will debut new technologies for advertisers at its annual event, Google Marketing Live. In the 2023 NBA playoffs, Jimmy Butler heats up Miami's Game 1 East Finals win against the Boston Celtics. Butler scored 35 points with 5 rebounds and 7 assists as he leads Miami to a 123-116 victory. The Heat snatched home court advantage from the Celtics as they erased a 13-point deficit. It was a team effort for Miami as Bam Adebayo added 20 points, while Kyle Lowry, Caleb Martin, Gabe Vincent, Max Strus scored 15 points each. Game 2 will be on Saturday, where the Boston Celtics try to even the series at 1-1.
Pop, pop, it's showtime. Showtime. Guess who's back again? Pop, pop, it's showtime.
And good news, the Bruno Mars tour is on for a second day. Due to popular demand, Bruno Mars is announcing a day 2 at the Philippine Arena. So don't feel sad about tickets selling out so soon. Day one's already sold out, so what better way to celebrate than to announce an encore? Day two is set to take place the very next day at the Philippine Arena with the same thrilling experience. The highly versatile artist, musician, and performer is known for his smooth, soulful ballads, It Will Rain and Versace on Floor, and his heart-pumping electric anthems like Uptown Funk and 24 Karat Magic. The largest indoor arena continues to become a world-class venue for international acts. In addition to Bruno Mars, K-pop groups Twice and Tomorrow by Together, or known as TXT, are also lined up to perform, and many more other artists. With a seating capacity of 55,000, the venue is sure to have space for whatever act we have in store. Filipino-American multiple Grammy winner Bruno Mars will now have a 2-day concert at the Philippine Arena on Saturday and Sunday. That's June 24 and 25, 2023. For tickets, visit livenation.ph, SM Ticket Outlets, and smtickets.com. Meanwhile, Prince Harry and his wife Meghan Markle make a great escape from the paparazzi by riding a New York taxi. The royal couple was involved in a near-catastrophic car chase. According to the royal couple's spokesperson, their vehicle was pursued by half a dozen black cars. The chase resulted in multiple near misses with other vehicles, pedestrians, and even NYPD officers. New York Police Department says that the royal couple arrived safely at their destination. No accidents or arrests were made in relation to the incident. A likely reason for Prince Harry's aversion to the media could be the death of his mother, Princess Diana of Wales, who perished in a car crash in the Paris tunnel due to being pursued by the paparazzi. And for your Thursday motivation, here's a quote from British actress, humanitarian, and fashion icon Audrey Hepburn. Opportunities don't often come along, so when they do, you have to grab them. So if an opportunity knocks on your door, especially one that you really like deep within your heart, grab it, open that door, because it's always better to know if you tried than not knowing at all. And that's a wrap for tonight's news. Catch latest updates on our social media channels. I am Ricky Matay. This is Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.